Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to The Calvin Show. I'm Calvin, this is Krug, and let's get airborne. Over the holidays, my wife and I were staying at a hotel that we really love called the Crosby Street Hotel. In the minibar at the Crosby Street Hotel, they had one of these bad boys. It's a half bottle of Krug champagne. I hadn't heard of it before, but I'm a big champagne lover. Someone once told me that I have very much a champagne essence. Light and bubbly and festive kind of nature. I saw that they were charging $125, that's 125 US dollars, for a half bottle of this thing. And I read about Krug, and apparently it's like one of the finest champagnes or champagne houses. It was one of those moments where I thought, this is completely, this is so beyond what I think you can do. When I grew up, it was always like mini bars are evil and they're there just to cheat you and try to get you to take something, and then they just charge you through the nose and they rip you off and it's horrible, it's a scam. But I was like, wow, what if it's not? What if we don't have all these hang-ups about money and what something should cost or shouldn't cost? And so for me, I decided to do it. To me, the trade is not just that I get a half bottle of really nice champagne. It's also that I get to have that experience of doing that, and I get to experience what that feels like and what kind of stuff that brings up for me. And it ended up being amazing. I loved how it tasted, and we made love over a glass of champagne, and it was fantastic. And I had no problem paying for it. And so I was like, it's New Year's is coming up. Let me have some more. So I looked it up on Astor Wines. These things here, the half bottles, are like $67, and the full bottle is $176 or something around that. A full bottle is $35 more than two half bottles. I don't know why that would be the case, because usually you save money by buying in bulk and buying bigger quantities and stuff. But to me, a half bottle is actually great. My wife loves this stuff too, but she tends to get a headache drinking champagne. So if we want to share something, a half bottle is actually perfect. So what I decided to do was, let me get a case of this stuff for New Year's, and as you can tell, I still have a few left. But the interesting thing that happened was that after I've had a few more of these, it's still a great champagne. I still love it. It doesn't have the same zing to it that the first glass had. And I think this is something that we very easily overlook when it comes to these kinds of exchanges and money and pleasures and what kind of value we derive from it. And so the fact that I consumed this bottle in a hotel room over Christmas with my lover, the fact that it was the first time I tasted it, the fact that I paid $125 for it made it more exquisite. There's been lots of studies about this, like people who pay more for ice cream will like it more. People who eat ice cream out of a round container will say that it tastes better than the same ice cream out of a non-round container. It's all so subjective. While I'm still enjoying the champagne, it doesn't have the same zest to it that first bottle had. And I think it's just worth acknowledging that this is how it is with things. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just that when we try to go back and chase a high like that, it's never going to have the same effect the second time. It's all about responding to the opportunities that are there. I don't regret doing this. It's just worth always being aware that you can't chase those highs. It's not going to be the same. Which leads me to when I bought a BMW Z4 car. I mentioned that in my last video when we talked about George and Benta's question about money. I was living in Copenhagen up until the end of 2010, and I'd just broken up with my first wife, and I was determined to move back to America. In order to do that, I needed a visa. In order to get a visa, I needed to invest, because what I was going for was what's called the E2 Treaty Investor Visa. Part of that deal is that you invest in a US company, and then the visa gives you the right to live here so that you can run and operate said company. Then we had an immigration lawyer who I love because his answers to my questions were always very precise. It just turned out that they were not accurate. What ended up happening was that we applied for this visa. It's not enough that you have this money sitting in a bank account. You actually need to commit it, invest it in something. And my immigration lawyer said, no, you don't have to do that. You can just leave it in the bank account. That's fine. Got to the interview, and he said, I thank you so much for your application. It's very easy and organized, and it's very good. We'll get you out of here in a minute and get your visa. You need to document for me what you've actually invested in, because I don't see that. The answer was, I haven't invested in anything. And he was like, well, you need to. So we'll keep your passport and then we'll get this sorted very quickly. We were struggling to come up with something to invest in because we didn't really have a need. And there are certain rules, so we can like prepay rent for an office for 12 months. So we did that for an office that we ended up not using at all because we didn't get the visa, and so we had an office that we couldn't use. One of my friends had the same type of visa and he'd invested in a car, and he'd done this with this kind of escrow deal so that the actual purchase of the car was contingent on him getting the visa. So I was like, it sounds like a great thing. I've always wanted this kind of, the Z4, I'd been dreaming of it for years. So I found one, a used Z4, purchased, we did the escrow deal, and then, submitted that. They got back to us and said, basically what they said was it doesn't look like the money is actually committed. The instructions you get are not usually super accurate. And so we took that to mean that they didn't buy the escrow deal. And so I was like, all right, screw it. We'll just buy it outright and then hopefully we'll get the visa. A few more months passed and then we finally got the rejection, the final denial. And in that case, there's nothing more to do. I was stuck with a car sitting in a lot in California and no visa. So we ended up just spending time over there as a tourist and driving around that car. And it's a great experience. But the key thing was for the first 2 weeks, I felt so high on this car that I'd been dreaming of for so long. I'd be like, there's no other car that I'd rather own than my car. Classic midlife crisis, find a younger woman and driving around. I remember this moment in some small town along the coast in California, and we're driving down, the top was down, and then two skaters coming up alongside, and then one of them was like, hey, nice car, dude. And then the other guy was like, yeah, nice chick. Literally 2 weeks in, 14 days after I got that car, I came down one morning, see the car sitting there parked in the parking lot, and it was just a car. It was a nice car, but it was just a car. And it didn't have that effect on me anymore. It was a huge, huge lesson for me in terms of that whole concept of wanting something to prove to myself or to others that I'm worthy, that I am something, that I am powerful, or whatever it is. It's so fleeting. This car I'd been lusting after for 10 years. 2 weeks. That's all I got. I was waiting for 10 years and then it was great for fucking 2 weeks. You can go do the same thing. I don't regret a second of it. And this lesson is it's sunk in so deep that I've never forgotten. If you need to buy a Roadster, that's fine. Go buy the Roadster. But I'm telling you, this is the case. Go and look at what other areas in your life, maybe smaller, where you've experienced the same thing. And just like really internalize and get this, that there's nothing external ever that's gonna make you feel better. If you don't feel good today, if you don't feel grateful today, it's all coming from inside. We acclimate to things so quickly, you have no idea. It makes your head spin. If only I had more money, if only I was slimmer, if only I had a better partner or a life partner, if only I had more sex, if only, none of that stuff is gonna do you any good. It's really not. Even this stuff is not gonna cure any of your ails. I promise you it's not. That's what I have to offer today. Drink the champagne, but don't think that it solves anything. Get the car, but don't think that it makes you feel actually better. So I guess that's a strategy that you could imply, is like, buy something every 2 weeks, get something that's just like so much more expensive. But I think you're gonna run out of money in the world pretty soon if that's your strategy. So I advise on the other strategy. Find the love, find the good feelings inside. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you go to my website at Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you go to my website at calvincorelli.com and sign up for the mailing list in the top right corner. Post your thoughts and your questions in the comments. We really love to hear from you. And until next time, remember, go be you.